So will the pressure, Treasury Secretary Bessent's Operation Economic Outcast, be enough to take down the Iranian regime? Joining us now is Mike Sarraille, retired U.S. Navy SEAL, and the host of Final Flight, The Men of Extortion 17, available now on Fox Nation. Mike, great to see you. One of the best New York Post covers I've seen so far, out of Moolah. Out of Moolah. So what happens when the mullahs are out of Moolah? Is that going to be enough to cause the end of the regime?
It possibly can with internal strife, and that's ultimately where we're going here. When Iran has to look north, south, west, and east, ultimately looking at their external enemies, but they're forced to look inward because the internal opposition is rising. That's when regimes become brittle, and that's when we can possibly look at regime replacement.
Now, last week, we were told, and I thought it was a little too optimistic, we were told that there was this split between the IRGC folks, the Republican Guard, the hardliners, and slightly less crazy people that are in the administration there, that split might be widening as a result of what the Treasury was going to be doing. Do you believe that, or is that just them pushing out this good cop, bad cop thing?
No, I would paint that as accurate, and here's why.
Really?
We had the Iranian parliamentary leader Ghalibaf talking about military might, and while that adds strength to the nation, ultimately there are empty stomachs. And when you have an Iranian leader saying that, we should listen. Because when you push people to the edge, when the internal domestic situation for Iran crumbles, that's when the dissidents rise up. They're already having to move a lot of the IRGC effort to focusing internal towards that opposition. I mean, we have a regime that's always focused and always had to deal with oppressing their people. That becomes harder with economic strife. And when the people rise up, that's when all of these assets, all the diplomatic powers we're bringing, the military, the information, and especially these sanctions, that becomes crippling to any nation.
But, you know, I hope you're right. But after 45,000 of their family members, their friends, were murdered in the streets by the maniacs who were in control there, I mean, it took guts for those people to come out, but to come out in spite of what actually happened, these people would have to be superheroes to do that.
They would. And they were heroic for the protests that they led during those times. And we understand why. And that had to do with the economic conditions that Iran was in. We were asking a lot of normal people, but ultimately that's what's going to be required. Now, here's the question. This is going to require a semblance of covert operations. Whether the U.S. and Israel are already moving on this or not, we've got to look at paramilitary operations, or what we call political action. And that is arming, training the opposition. Arming them is the key word to rise up against the IRGC. But to what degree do the IRGC soldiers and the Artesh, what opposition exists within those elements? Because when they stop getting paid, you know, that ideology dies very, very quick.
Now, the Iranian regime has lost a lot of its old friends in the region. They've taken pot shots at the UAE, killed some people in the surrounding area. But despite that, the UAE, and Dubai in particular, was operating as their banker, trying to trade some of the goods, mostly oil, I suspect, for hard cash, because their own currency is just totally decimated. Can we rely on the UAE and Dubai to stop that contact and stop being the banker of the Iranians?
Well, I think that is the purpose of the economic outcast. And what I love about these sanctions, and make no mistake, while no Chinese institution was named within the sanctions, it is very much the center of gravity to Iran. It's their economic lifeline. So we've widened the net with this. Now it's shipping. We're going after shipping companies, aviation technology, gold, and digital assets. And this is why it matters. And this is just a smart move by Scott Bessent. When you shut down traditional banking, Iran moves to exchange houses. You close those, they move to gold. When you shut down all those routes, that's when they start to move to crypto, to third-party front companies or third-party shipping, and then ultimately the shadow fleet. Economic warfare can be a little like whack-a-mole until you attack the entire financial ecosystem, and that's what they're doing. So America is saying to the world, you can either finance Iran or you can retain access to the American financial system, but you can't have both. And that is that clarion call is loudest to China. This is not the hill you want to die on.
By the way, is China, we only have 10 seconds, is China still supplying Iran with weaponry to fight this war?
We have to make the assumption, and Intel points to yes, they are. Their missile development and the exponential rate at which they were manufacturing or being armed with missiles is what led to the strategic justification, alongside their nuclear ambitions, that they could eventually put a warhead on a long-range missile, which is not only a threat to the region, Europe, but it would eventually come to the U.S.
Mike Sarraille, great information, Mike. Thank you so much.